Okay, everybody, welcome back. So this is day 2, finally able to get back to the job. Today what the focus is going to be is we're going to take off the trans to mount support beam. We're going to get out the master control, not the master control, the slave cylinder, and then we're going to disconnect the shift linkage bracket before we start taking care of any of the components below the car. So we're going to make sure everything up top is nice and loose, ready to go. Nothing will get caught or yanked from the top as we pull the transmission down. Prior, we took out the air intake, the battery box, and mount, and then we also took out the counterbalance and shift linkage relay. So let's get into it. Okay, so I have my support bar right here. I have a 13 millimeter over here on the trans mount side. All right, and then I have another one that's going to be underneath the bar. This one's going to be a little bit trickier to get to, but I can't remember what I did last time. But in order to get this bracket up and out of the way to give me a little bit more flex, we have some additional 13s. 1, 2 back here, and then a third one, I believe. If I can see, oh, right here on top of the transmitter. So 1, 2, and then a third one in back. Okay, so all these are going to be 13 millimeter bolts, and then you'll be able to bend that up and out the way. There is also a clamp back here. So there's also a clamp right back here that's going to hold your fluid line that just pulls right out. And then once you loosen up your slave cylinder, that whole area can fold up and out the way. Okay, so it's not really difficult to get these off. I use angled wrench 1, 2, and then 3. Get those out the way, and then like we've mentioned before, they can kind of just hang off to the side. They aren't really in any type of harmful way. What I did last time was I took a zip tie and I tied them up to the intake box, not the box, the intake hose. So I'm going to start that now, clear up a little bit more room so that I can then get out your, well, not your, it's mine because it's my car. So I can get out the slave cylinder. Okay, so now I have the bracket unbolted. All right, so there's something that you need to see. Okay, let me get some light. Right there and back, you see that little right above that or not below the aluminum corrugate, there's a sensor. That is your transmission speed sensor. Okay, that is magnetically connected. So you're gonna pull that off, and then you pretty much just turn it into place. See if I can keep you lined up, and there you go. And just disconnect that, and that's it. There is, shit, I just dropped it. There's a pole that something just dropped. Hold on. All right, so when you pull it out, this is in there. Okay, so this drops in. Okay, and this is what plugs into the top of it, and it just sits into that little hole. So you see how there's a hole in there? So it sits right in that hole. Let me see if I can line you up. So you see that cap? It sits right in there, okay? That's what collects the data from the moving parts, okay? So that is your speed sensor, okay? So the part that I removed is just a magnetic clip that locks right onto that, and that's it. You lose that piece, then you won't have any speed sensors. So when you pull that up, make sure you keep an ear out for it falling off. Okay, so next step, the 2 bolts for the master cylinder. I keep saying master cylinder. For the slave cylinder. Slave. Okay, 13 millimeter for the outside. And there is a star pattern on the inside, which I believe is a 25 Torx bit. Let me grab one and double check. Because honestly, I just used 13 millimeter to get them in. And I used my my angle wrench to get them in, only because it was that much easier than using a socket. So I checked, and they are a 45 T45, that is. So I'm just gonna go with, so for space sake, I'm just gonna go with the 13 millimeter angle wrench to be able to get those out. It's gonna be a bit of a pain in the ass, so I'm just gonna crack them loose first and then thread them out little at a little. What I did for the inner one was I got a 1/4 inch extension with a 1/4 inch 13, and I just kind of spun it a little bit at a time. So I'll show you what I mean. So once I crack it loose, I got the little stubby, was it like, I don't know, 1.5 inch extension, I guess is what that is. And then my 1/4 inch 13 mil socket. So once I break that loose, I just kind of finger spun it out as I needed to. Just because, as you can see, the area to work is kind of tight, and the head of the socket is a little tight fitting. So I'm not constantly switching out extensions. That's just the route that I went. All right, let's get to it. So here it is. Your slave cylinder is out. And as I mentioned before, this is a little bit bigger than the OEM one. The OEM one is probably about this big, and it's a plastic body. It's much more compressed. And over time, what will happen is their bleeder valve is really cheap, thin aluminum. So that'll wind up falling apart as you try to bleed it. So I was able to get this one. I actually ordered this from Amazon. In case anybody wants to take advantage and change this right now, I will post a link to the exact Amazon product that I purchased, as long as I can find the order. All right, and then I will put that in the description. So, as of right now, everything from the top that I can do besides the transmission mount has been taken care of, okay? So everything else, I mean, well, not everything, but I got, I have a bolt over here, right where my finger is. I got a mount bolt, which I believe that's a 13 as well. Yeah, that's a 13 as well. So I will get that out, and that's just a ground wire. And then there is another stud behind that. I believe it's a 17 or an 18, like the starter bolts were. I'm not going to do that as of right now, because that will be for when I start to disconnect the belt housing. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath. I'm going to disconnect my power steering lines, and I'm going to start draining my my differential fluid. Okay, underneath the car. Okay, so here is your power steering line. All right, runs right in front of your the transmission. So 13 millimeter again, and just loosen that up. Then it will have a bracket. Boom, drops right off, and then you have this little piece that goes along with it. I need to drain my diff fluid. So my one is underneath here, okay? But before we crack that open, we want to make sure that the fill port opens. So the fill port, if you can see it right here, that's right behind your power steering fluid. So once you release that bracket that I showed you, right here is the fill port, right? So that is going to be an H7, okay, 1/2 inch adapter. Right. And if I can get this turned right there. Right. Turn this the right way first. Okay. That's on Lucy. Left it Lucy, right target. I need both hands to keep this lined up. Right. Okay, so that cracks loose. All right. So it threads out. So now that that is loosey goosey, I can now move over here, crack that bad boy open, and then drain my diff fluid. Okay, so next up, I have unplugged everything that is going to get disconnected from the wheel areas, the front wheel areas, because now what I've got to do is I've got to disconnect the outer tie rod from the knuckle, take off the brakes and the calipers, and then I've also got to disconnect the CV axle from the hub so that I can disconnect the axle from the trans. So all that is going to give me some extra room. I'm also going to disconnect the ball joints from the control arm. Since those are just 3 nuts, it'll be easier than disconnecting it from the knuckle and then possibly ruining the alignment of everything, at least on this side. So I have everything pre-soaked in lubricant, PB blaster, whatever you want to call it, and I'm gonna give that about 15-20 minutes, go change this battery, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so as you guys can see, I have the outer tie rod out. I have the entire brake assembly disassembled. I am going to be getting a bungee cord to secure this in place so it doesn't drop and damage my soft line. I have already taken out the 3 bolts to my ball joint. So the one thing about this setup is that with the bolt-in ball joint setup, the easiest thing for you to do is just to disassemble everything. Okay, leave your strut in place, and then you will be able to literally pull this out once you've loosened up the CV joint. So it's 3 bolts like this that are 13 millimeter along the lower rear portion. You'll see it when you pull it out. All right. So for the axle, this is a 30 millimeter deep socket, even like a medium socket. This is a 6-point. That works best for these, so you don't dig into the edges too much. Napa, any parts store. And keep in mind, the more you take them off, the closer you get to replacing them. Some of them are one-time use. So the next step is I'm going to need to loosen this up from the hub. So a little die punch right here in the center. And then that's pretty much all you need. Then you take this nut off the rest of the way, and then we should have some play. Try it again. All right, there you go.
So you got that out, the washer. All right. So I'm gonna need to spray down where the bolt is, because right now, so my last bolt I had in place for the ball joint to make sure that I didn't have any unnecessary movement while I got the axle loose from the hub. Once I release that, you should then be able to see me release everything. All right, she's out, and there we go. So I'm going to secure. So now that's out. You see? So now I'm going to secure my caliper to the spring so she doesn't fall and get messed up. Okay. All right, so back here you have a pinch bolt. All right, so taking it out might be a little bit difficult with like a spreader. Oh, holy crap! Look at that! Voila! See what putting some anti-seize lubricant does for your little buddy? She done slip right out. Loads of fun. All right, so that was the driver's side. Repeat on the passenger side. And then once that's done, your next step is going to be releasing your axle bolt. So I'm going to show you that on this side so you can just go and repeat on the passenger side. So, triple square set. All right. If you do not have a triple square set, I will link this in the description of where you can get your very own triple square set. So I got these the last time I did my clutch. So I believe these are M8s. Let's see. So listen. Let's illuminate the situation. Now you will need an extension when you actually start taking the bolts out. It is not an M8. I'm thinking it might be a. Let's see. I'm just gonna stop guessing and just start comparing. All right. All right. That's not it. Oh, you know what? I might have grabbed the wrong set. Shoot. Let's try. Okay. All right, so I found it. So your H8s, all right? So your not the triple squares, but your hex kit. H8 hex kit. All right. So again, you will need to use an extension style setup, and then you will need to turn this, okay? You'll need to turn the stuff as you go, all right, so that you can access all 6 on the driver's side
and then all 6 on the passenger side. The driver's side aren't as hard because they're not as deep. Passenger side is going to be a little bit tougher. So have fun, good luck, wrench daily. So I want to mention something else I forgot. So I didn't do this last time, and I regretted it heavily. So this cup right here, all right, that is what your axle shaft connects into. As you can see, the 6 bolts around it. Right in the middle is an H6, right? Yes, an H6 bolt, all right? That cup is spring loaded, and on the other end, it has an input shaft that goes into your differential. If you remove that, okay, you will be able to then get the trans back in much easier. And another reason why you need to drain your fluid, because as you can see, there is some drippage on it. So it's coming directly from inside the input shaft of the transmission. So don't forget that. That will make getting things back in place a lot easier.